What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Monday, July 5th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 9-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. If you want to pay up for a pitcher, take a look at Brandon Woodruff, pitching against the New York Mets. Brandon Woodruff, he's a balanced pitcher, giving up a .502 OPS versus lefties, a .580 OPS versus righties, and a .475 OPS versus switch hitters, and he's facing a balanced lineup facing 4 lefties, 3 righties, and 2 switch hitters. Now the Mets have hit 8 of his last 18 pitches, but that's a small sample size, so we can throw that out. He's $11,400 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,000 less on DraftKings. He's projected at 26.8 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 1.87. His record is 7-3 on the season, pitching an average of 95 pitches per game, and he's averaging 43 fantasy points per game, and he scored 49, 55, and 15 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And Vegas thinks this is going to be a low-scoring game. 7.5 runs scored in this game, so I like Brandon Woodruff here versus the New York Mets. Now, if you're looking to save some salary with a pitcher that has a little bit of upside, now I'd probably only play this pitcher on FanDuel because he's priced up on DraftKings, and I think there's better options on DraftKings. But on FanDuel, take a look at Rich Hill with a 5% pitching advantage over a low-salary batting team, the Cleveland Indians. Rich Hill, he's giving up a .529 OPS versus lefties and a .606 OPS versus righties. He's facing 3 lefties and 4 righties. Now, the Indians have hit 9 of his last 28 pitches, but again, it's a small sample size. So Rich Hill is only $7,000 FanDuel salary, and he's $2,100 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. He's projected at 30.8 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 3.70. His record is 6-3 on the season, pitching an average of 78 pitches per game, and he's averaging 28 fantasy points per game. He scored 12, 33, and 18 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Rich Hill on FanDuel here versus the Cleveland Indians. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I like Freddie Freeman with a 60% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Chase DeJong. Freddie Freeman is batting 34% better versus righty pitchers, batting a 1.070 OPS versus righties. And Chase DeJong, he pitches his worst ball versus lefty batters, 25% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.154 OPS versus lefties. Freddie Freeman is $3,800 FanDuel salary. He's $2,000 more on DraftKings, projected at 12.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 12, 19, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games, and he would be my pick for the home run hitter on the slate. So I like Freddie Freeman here versus Chase DeJong. Okay, another catcher first baseman. If you're looking to save some salary, take a look at Gavin Sheets with a 59% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Bailey Auber. Gavin Sheets, he's batting a 1.577 OPS versus righties, and Bailey Auber, he throws his worst ball versus lefty batters, 53% worse than his pitch to righties, giving up a 1.284 OPS versus lefties. Gavin Sheets is 1 for 2 with a 1 OPS versus Auburn. He's only $2,800 FanDuel salary, and he's $200 less on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites, but I love that DraftKings price. He's projected at 9.7 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 15 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 10 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Gavin Sheets here versus Bailey Auber.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on.
Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like David Fletcher with a 23% batting advantage over Martin Perez. David Fletcher is batting 19% better versus lefty pitchers. He's batting a .829 OPS versus lefties. And Martin Perez, he throws his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .798 OPS versus righties. And I like this pick because David Fletcher is 3 for 8, batting a .375 batting average and a 1.250 OPS versus Perez. One of those 3 hits is for a home run, and the other one's a double. He's $2,800 FanDuel salary, and only $300 more on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites, and he's projected at 10.5 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 9, 6, and 10 fantasy points in his last 3 games. And Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 10 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like David Fletcher here versus Martin Perez. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Manny Machado with a 38% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, John Lester. Manny Machado is batting a .860 OPS versus lefties, and John Lester, he throws his worst ball by far to righty batters, 39% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .931 OPS versus righties. Now, Manny Machado is 5 for 15, batting a .333 batting average and a 1.042 OPS versus Lester. He's $3,700 FanDuel salary. He's $1,700 more on DraftKings, projected at 11.3 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 60, 22, and 3 fantasy points in his last 3 games. The fact that he scored 60 fantasy points last game gives me a little bit of pause, because normally there's a letdown after a monster game like that, but he's in a great spot here tonight. So I like Manny Machado here versus John Lester. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I'm going to give you a value play here. I like Nico Horner with a 31% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Matt Moore. Nico Horner, he's batting a .685 OPS versus lefties, and Matt Moore, he throws his worst ball versus righty batters, 34% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a 1.032 OPS versus righties. Nico Horner is only $2,000 FanDuel salary. He's $1,800 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. He's projected at 9.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 6, and 0 fantasy points in his last 3 games. so I think he's due for a good game here. So I like Nico Horner here versus Matt Moore. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I like Jace Peterson with a 94% batting advantage over Tyler Megill. Jace Peterson is batting 22% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .800 OPS versus righties. And Tyler Megill, he pitches his worst ball versus lefty batters, 73% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.571 OPS versus lefties. Jace Peterson is $2,600 FanDuel salary, and he's $1,300 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 29, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Jace Peterson here versus Tyler Megill. Okay, another outfielder that I like is Juan Soto, batting against Joe Musgrove. Juan Soto, he's batting a 1.009 OPS versus righty pitchers, and Joe Musgrove, he's giving up a .631 OPS versus lefties. And Juan Soto is 2 for 5, batting .400 with a .900 OPS versus Musgrove. He's $3,600 FanDuel salary. He's $1,900 more on DraftKings. Projected at 13.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 6, and 6 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Juan Soto here versus Joe Musgrove.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.